Are you growing tired of lost tickets and time-consuming ticket sorting? If you've been considering electronic ticketing, now is the time to make the switch to FleetWatcher's e-ticketing solution. Being the largest provider of e-ticketing solutions, FleetWatcher has helped over 250 contractors across the nation reduce worksite hazards and eliminate overflowing filing cabinets. The app is available on desktop and mobile devices, so you can see your reports from the office or the field. To learn more about how e-ticketing can benefit your operations, visit fleetwatcher.com today.
This is Pavement Black.
Hi, and welcome to Pavement Black, the official podcast of the National Asphalt Pavement Association. My name is Richard Willis.
And I'm Brett Williams.
Well, this season we've focused on the many opportunities that are available within the industry. Our conversations have often highlighted how all the roles within companies are working together. Today, we're going to talk about a technology that creates opportunity and can aid in communication and management. Today's topic draws together Season 3, which focused on technology, and Season 4, which is about looking for opportunities in the industry.
So how can technology attract new talent? Or how can technology make us more effective in the roles that we hold at companies?
So we've invited Bo Walters from Dunn Construction to be on the podcast today to help us learn a few more things about that. Welcome to the podcast, Bo.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here. Honored to be here.
So, Bo, I was hoping maybe you could share a little bit about your career journey, like how you came into the role of Vice President of Operations for Dunn Construction.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off at Dunn Construction as an intern the summer before my senior year of college. Started off at the asphalt plants on the shovel. And so spent all summer really learning the field. I knew nothing about asphalt paving. I'm a building science major out of Mississippi State University. I'd been trained to build vertical in big high rises and things like that. And so the road industry was a complete new understanding of construction and materials and everything. And so started off at the asphalt plant and then worked around in the field a little bit. And then finished my senior year of college, came back, got into estimating, spent a couple of years there, project management, just kind of a natural career path. Got involved with operations, I think assistant operations manager and then operations manager. And then now get the great opportunity of serving our people as vice president of operations.
In your career journey, did you have other experiences where you've integrated software or used software, maybe in your career or education or life, and you've used that technology to help solve challenges?
You know, I'm a Dunn guy from the beginning, and so I haven't had the opportunity of working outside of Dunn Construction, but definitely in the education. Our building science school at Mississippi State is really one of a kind. It's modeled after the building science school out at Cal Poly. And so it's a studio-based environment where you're really challenged on critical thinking and innovative ideas. And so everything we were taught was really pushing the status quo of how can we do this better? How can we leverage technology? What are the latest technologies? And it's really just kind of rooted deep down in my core, that kind of attitude.
So as you're bringing new technology to a company or new software to a company, does this require like specialized new staff or extensive training of the current staff that you've got? What kind of a philosophy do you take on that kind of implementation process?
I love that question. And we have the attitude here at Dunn Construction. It's not that our people won't do it. It's that we haven't led them to do it yet. And so it's really interesting when you start looking at the construction industry. I think people get stuck in tradition. One thing we've learned over the last several years is that you really only get innovative ideas when you're willing to challenge the tradition. I can think of numerous stories offhand. One here recently working with grade control and a motor grader operator who's been here for 25 years. And so you can picture this guy been here sucking his way. He's been in the grader for 25 years, working on a motor grader with lever, and we're swapping to grade control. And so he sees this monitor in front of him. It reinforces that idea that it's not that they won't, it's that we haven't led them to. And so that's our attitude here. And believe it or not, it's not that people don't like change. I think that they're not comfortable with the thing that you're putting in front of them. So we here at Dunn Construction taking that idea, dumped it on its head, and we say, look, change is a great thing for us, but we're going to provide them with the tools that they need to be successful at what they're doing.
One of my questions I'm interested in learning a little more about is specific to the Fleet Watcher software and how that software has helped reduce or minimize some of your past pain points?
Man, Fleet Watcher is probably one of my most favorite tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. I first want to talk about Larry Larry Baker, the CEO of Earthwave and Fleet Watcher. Great organizations are built and maintained by great people. And I think it says a lot about Larry and his service and commitment to Fleet Watcher. I think the technology that Fleet Watcher offers is great, and it really is one of a kind. But one of the things we've learned is that technology is great, but it's only as good as the process. And really the process is only as good as the people. One of the things I love about Larry and his team is that they're so service oriented. It doesn't matter what hour of night it is, what time it is during the day. Anytime we've had a problem, we pick up and we call this team and they're on it. In our industry, there's a lot of great softwares, a lot of new kind of technology, but the service that these guys offer is really one of a kind. Having said that, Fleet Watcher has allowed us to do numerous things, which I'm sure we'll get into here, but in a 30,000 foot level, Fleet Watcher gives us the ability to track things with our trucking, material process, our ticketing process, our plant production, tracking KPIs with our equipment that we haven't been able to do in the past.
Does using that software help create more interest from other parts of the operation that may not have paid close attention to trucking and logistics in the past? And if so, have there been any kind of wins from that additional buy-in?
Yeah, great question. I consider our operations here at Dunn Construction to really have four chambers. I call them the four chambers of the heart. So we have asphalt plants, we have our road crews, we have our shop, and then we have our trucking department. So when we initially brought on Fleet Watcher, we thought, man, it's going to be a great tool for our trucking department. We're going to be able to look at cycle times. We're going to be able to look at efficiency of the haul. Are we over truck? Are we under truck? All these different variables. And what we've learned is that not only has it really helped us become very efficient with our trucking, it's also helped the other three chambers of the heart, our asphalt plants, understanding where those trucks are at, when they'll be coming back, when they'll be leaving. On our equipment side, understanding where we're using the equipment module and Fleet Watcher also to understand where our pieces are at, to track hours, revenue hours, the PM time, preventative maintenance times on these pieces of equipment. And then really our shop too is just to understand how everything's tying together, how they can better service the team as a whole.
So I'm interested in learning some of the immediate and long-term benefits. And one of the areas I think would be interesting as we move through season 4 and start to look at season 5, some of the topics I think that are really coming to the forefront would be like sustainability and environmental type of topics or interest points. So I was curious in terms of some of the benefits, if there are ties to being more efficient or helping with greenhouse gas emissions or those type of things.
Yeah, I think so. With on these truck cycle times, I can think of prior to having Fleet Watcher days, job specifically, it comes up as a very busy thoroughfare through Birmingham, Highway 4, Interstate 459. It travels right through the heart of Birmingham. And I can just remember our trucking costs, just not being able to control our trucking costs. And we just really felt like it was almost out of hand at the job level. And so we pushed through, we laid a beautiful mat. We had a great job, but we really took away, all right, we haven't really managed our assets well. On our cycle times, we felt like we were over trucked. At certain times, we were under trucked. A very similar job, say a year later, once we've brought Fleet Watcher on, we can understand these cycle times. We're looking at the graphs that they offer, all of these specific KPIs that we put in there that we feel like are important to us. For instance, we take a number of jobs. Let's say we had 10 trucks on a job. And I know people are not going to believe me when they hear this, but we've had it happen numerous times to where, yeah, this job calls for 10. The tradition that I'm talking about that we have to challenge here, this job calls for 10 trucks. Well, we start studying our graphs, and no kidding, we're able to get next year more efficiently with using 4 or 5 trucks. And so as far as greenhouse emissions and everything like that, you would be cutting the exhaust from those machines, the use of fuel, everything that would be involved with that in half almost.
Keep listening. There's more to come right after this break. Experiencing bottlenecks at the paver? Identify them and create actionable solutions with the telematics software that is designed specifically for paving contractors. Fleet Watcher's material management solution gives you a line of sight into what's happening out in the field. Whether you run company-owned trucks or third-party providers, with their load cycle analysis, you'll be able to determine where the problems are occurring and be able to correct them in real time. What makes Fleet Watcher different, you might ask? 100% of their customers are contractors, and they have designed their products to fit your specific paving needs. Do you have long delays in getting information entered into your accounting system, making reports 2 to 4 weeks old by the time you get them? Fleet Watcher's virtual shift tickets have enabled many of the company's users to get away from paper tickets completely and store information digitally. Get accurate, real-time information that is accessible on your desktop or mobile devices. To learn more, visit fleetwatcher.com.
So I want to go back to a comment you made earlier, because I had no clue you were in building science. And if you look at some of the technology that they're using in building science, such as like programs like BIM to help manage projects and help visualize and understand material quantities, is there something that the horizontal construction industry could learn from the vertical construction industry, or what's a technology that they're using that we could embrace to help make our companies better, more efficient, our projects run smoother?
One thing that I took out of building science school was visuals. You think about it on a job site, you think about all of the different types of backgrounds that come in to make a job successful. So you got varying education, you got varying background experiences, you may have different languages, all these kind of things come together. But one thing that's universal is visuals. I think about all the data that we can now consume as an industry, but that's great to have all the data. But what are we going to do with that data? How are we going to represent it to our field? How can we reach the baby boomer? How can we reach the new generation coming out of high school, the millennials? How can we touch each one of them? I think it says in Proverbs that enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. And so that's one thing that we've learned Fleet Watcher does a wonderful job of, is capturing this data, very similar to how all the vertical guys are doing it, capturing all this data that they have, building these models. Okay, so picture Fleet Watcher capturing all this data, all these KPIs that we know, but how do we represent it to a superintendent, a foreman, even a guy on the field, a plant operator, somebody at our shop, a project manager looking at his phone in the middle of the night to figure out a problem? How can we graphically represent to where they don't have to understand all the math behind it? Not that they can't, but just on the fly to make real-time decisions. That's pushing information out there. What graphs can they look at? What can they take away? That's one thing Fleet Watcher does beautifully, in my opinion.
I know that Dunn Construction's involved or been a part of the Quality Construction Awards program in the past. I was just curious if you've had involvement with the awards program and if you have experience where some of these technologies have helped with meeting some of the quality standards to make or produce or place a project that's a contender for these different awards.
I love that question. We've got a great team here at Dunn Construction, and we've been honored to receive several of those awards. I believe a couple of years ago, we were runner-up on the Sheldon G. Hayes Award, which is like the Super Bowl in our industry. Fleet Watcher was used on that project. And so just thinking through how you can benefit through ways Fleet Watcher receiving those awards. Quality asphalt, man, it's a time thing, right? So it just depends on the mixers. They can't sit in the silo too long. They can't sit in the truck too long. They've got to be a certain temperature when they get on the job. So from the plant to the job, trucking is the thing that controls that. And what we've learned, when we're over truck, the mix may sit in the truck too long. When we're under truck, the paver sitting, it may cause a bump in the mat and the ride. And so no doubt about it, Fleet Watcher definitely helped us improve our business in that area.
Think back to when you were starting your internship at Dunn, the first summer there, coming from building science and thinking that you were going to go into vertical type construction. What's something that's really surprised you about the asphalt industry?
I think the complexity of the asphalt industry is what's really surprised me. And so it's funny, and I'm sure a lot of students may feel like this, is that when you're coming out of a building science school, everything you're introduced to is vertical, big, tall, big span, steel, complexity. And I can remember thinking before I came to my internship is that, man, I don't know if I'll be challenged. I don't know if I'll use all this training on how to use these innovative critical thinking process that I've been trained on the last 5 years. That's probably the biggest surprise to me. When one rides down the highway without understanding what it all goes into that to make that beautiful, smooth ride. You may think, man, this is just simple, smooth. Hopefully it's smooth. It's black. It drains a little bit. And I can remember thinking after learning about it, after a couple of years going, holy smoke, there's so much involved in this.
I was curious if there was something about Dunn Construction that if I wasn't familiar with the company or hadn't worked there, that you've learned over your career about the company that you might share that's might be of interest to somebody that's not as familiar.
We started in 1878, and so we've been around a long time. We're in the fifth generation of family-owned business. One of the most impressive things I love about Dunn Construction is that our leaders are really obsessed with empowering the right people. We have a value statement here that says that service to our customers, employees, communities, and shareholders is the reason our business exists. And in this service, we value honesty, excellence, and continuous improvement. We commit to working together fairly and safely, holding these values for the common good. And so business is rooted into those values: customers, employees, communities, shareholders. One of the things that I love about Dunn Construction, they truly stand behind their values. They're committed to excellence, honesty, excellence, and continuous improvement. That makes a fun place to work. I'm not saying it's not hard. It's not hot in the summertime shoveling asphalt, raking asphalt, rolling asphalt, all those good things. But when you have a culture like that that truly stands behind their employees, it makes it a great place to come, learn, and spend a lifelong career.
The construction industry, especially the horizontal construction, kind of gets a bad rap sometimes, and maybe sometimes we deserve it for not really embracing new technology. And people look at us and think we haven't changed how we build an asphalt road in 100 years. What would you say to a potential high schooler who is looking to come out and get into work instead of going to college about the opportunities in the asphalt industry to really harness some new and kind of cutting edge technologies?
I think I would start with the employer first to challenge those that may be listening and to really embrace the technology first. I think it's in Ecclesiastes that says that farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. And so that was a hurdle that we had to jump through here, is that we're going to wait on this competitor to do it. We're going to wait on this competitor to do it, but we're having problem with the workforce. We're having problem with attracting talent. I would really start at the root and say, look, employers have to embrace this technology. Our business has to be willing to plant regardless of the weather when it comes to technology. And in return, that's going to attract these kids coming out of college and coming out of high school. And then I would turn around and I would say this to the kids that are coming out of high school. This is beginning to be one of the most complex, innovative, creative industries out there. We're working on things here at Dunn Construction of how we're relating to that. I talk with Larry. I have a standing call with Larry Baker every 2 weeks, and we talk Tuesday afternoon about our business. We talk about innovation. We talk about service. And so there's so many tools out there for these young kids who have gone to school. They learn different than we did. I've got children now, and they don't have textbooks. They have tablets and iPads and all these wonderful things. So what's happening, in my opinion, they spend all this time coming out of school learning on all this, and then they go to an employer who may be stuck in some tradition, some old school ways, and it just turns them off. I would say that this industry offers several opportunities to come and apply all the innovative ways, all the critical thinking, all the technology that they've learned in school.
All right, Bill. Well, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast today. We really appreciate your time and your insight into kind of how technology's helped you at Dunn Construction as VP of Operations.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here. Honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think the main takeaway, or the one thing that really resonated with me, was when Bo talked about waiting for the perfect weather and how we really can't do that. And the way I kind of perceived it is just in business or in life, if we wait around and avoid risks, we might not ever take that step that we need to take. And I think it really talks about how when we take risks, there are some very potential rewards that we can get from doing so. And I just think that's an important thing and stuck with me today.
Yeah, I think while we were recording the whole podcast, I have Tevye in the back of my head from Fiddler on the Roof singing Tradition, because that was the word he kept coming back to. And really, if we as an industry are going to advance, if we're going to improve our quality, if we're going to improve our efficiencies, we've got to look at some of these traditions and kick them in the teeth and realize there are some that are good and there's some that may be holding us back. And as companies assess where are those real opportunities to make substantive change. And sometimes it's by embracing a technology. Sometimes it's by doing something a little different and realizing that we get data from these programs and it's useless unless we do something about it. It may challenge convention. It may challenge the way that you've typically done things in the past. But if you embrace it, you really have those opportunities to grow and be better.
Thanks for listening to Pave It Black. Visit asphaltpavement.org/podcast to find more episodes, suggest a topic or guest, become a sponsor, or learn more about Napa. Pave It Black is produced and copyrighted by the National Asphalt Pavement Association. Music by Colleague. As always, thanks to the dedicated workforce connecting diverse communities all across America. Keep on paving it black. Did you know the average piece of equipment idles in excess of 3 hours per day? Do you have equipment outside of your paving operation that needs to be monitored? If you're like most contractors, you're probably looking for ways to cut down on idle time, fuel costs, and equipment costs. Fortunately, Fleet Watcher software makes it easy for you to monitor your fleet in real time. With daily reports, you know exactly what equipment is being effectively utilized right now. Not sure what piece of equipment is due for a PM? Need to know where your equipment is located? Just take a look at Fleet Watcher app on your desktop or mobile device. To learn more about Fleet Watcher's construction management system, visit fleetwatcher.com.